Number 10. Man kills wife for cheating. So what would you do if you caught your partner cheating on you? Break up with them or file for divorce? No matter what you do, your plans for revenge probably won't be as extreme as this. A 48-year-old man from Texas shot his wife after he allegedly found out she was cheating on him. The man later uploaded a 4-minute video on YouTube to apologize to his children. He was quickly apprehended by police. In the video, he blamed his dead wife and said that the 18-year age difference was terrible for them and that he always knew something was wrong. The man also complains about petty issues like messy hair. In his so-called confessional recording, he is seen telling his children that he warned their mother to not play with his emotions. He also added that he has an audio of his wife talking to another man. According to the woman's mom, who was there when the incident occurred, the man was hiding in the bathroom with a gun. He had threatened to kill both of them. She ran out of the house, but couldn't save her daughter. Number 9. Splitting up. We all want some sweet, tender love and care when we're sick. But what happens when you're not getting that TLC from your spouse when you need it most? A couple in a Cambodian village had the weirdest solution after a marriage of 40 years. The husband chose to end the marriage, all because his wife didn't take care of him when he was sick. There were no courts involved in the divorce. Instead, the village's head governed the split. But it's not the reason for the split or how the marriage ended that got this couple a spot on our list. It's what happened after. The couple only had a house to their name. So the question was, how would they split that? The husband and his friends came up with a quick solution to split the house. Literally. They could have put up a wall and divided the space, but no. Sawing the place in half seemed like a better idea. The man moved his side of the house onto his parents' property, leaving his wife's half on the original site. The house wasn't made of concrete, which is why he could pull this stunt off. But that does not mean it was easy. Talk about splitting up. Number 8. Pay for your spouse's ice cream. Ice cream, ice cream. We all scream for ice cream. When you file for a divorce, you have to give the court a convincing reason to end your marriage. This is when things can take a very sour turn. What usually ensues are blame games and a lot of couples therapy. The proceedings also uncover some cycles of petty disputes. There are only a handful of divorce cases that have been amicable. But when it comes to wacky reasons for divorce, this man from India takes the cake. Or should we say he simply takes the ice cream. In 2013, an Indian man filed for divorce after 23 years of marriage, stating that his wife blew his money on, any guesses? Well, apparently she blew it all on ice cream. Yeah, ice cream. What kind of ice creams were these really? How much exactly? We don't have all the answers. But since that's the reason for divorce, it must have amounted to something big, right? After all the drama, the wife just had one thing to say. The husband was a multi-millionaire. But just because your significant other can afford the delicious frozen treat, doesn't mean you should blow all his money on it. The confused court eventually granted them a divorce, but there was a catch. In her petition, the wife asked for a monthly spousal support amount, a 2-bedroom home that they jointly owned, and child support. The court agreed to an interim allowance, but also threw in a bit of a treat. The judge sure had a sense of humor, because he asked the husband to pay his ex-wife an extra alimony of $150 per month to buy ice cream. Wow, now that's some settlement, right? Number 7. Settling scores. Sometimes people just fall out of love. Couples therapy can help, or you call it quits. But this woman had a different set of problems to worry about. Falling out of love was the least of her worries. This woman's husband had hid a secret from her throughout their entire marriage. Turns out he had been keeping a secret diary of all the things that his wife was doing wrong. Could you imagine that? A journal of your mistakes? That is taking pettiness to another level. Maybe it could be justified if the husband was a shining example of himself. But he wasn't. Not only had he cheated on her, he even confessed that he didn't marry her for love. Of all the reasons a person can marry someone, this has to be the most disappointing one. So here's what he said. He married because he wanted help with the rent. They went to therapy to sort out the differences. The therapist told her to end the marriage and get as far away from him as possible. Can you think of any other weird reasons couples chose to split up? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe button if you haven't already. Number 6. Forced to dig up ashes. When marriages end, it can get really messy. Between court battles, child custody, and splitting of assets, it's chaotic for couples. But this man from Australia probably had it worse than most. A couple from South Wales, Mr. and Mrs. Moss, both wanted sole ownership of the farm they were living on. The man held a stable job as a manager and made a decent living. but his aim was to turn the farm into his main source of income, so he was very disappointed when the court gave the verdict in his wife's favor. But that's not the worst of it all. It wasn't just a piece of land for the ex-husband. It held a very close and sentimental value to him. He had built a memorial garden on the farm for his parents that had passed away. He buried their urns next to one another, complete with headstones. The garden also had a golden bust of his father. It's not an unissued thing to bury dear loved ones within the boundaries of an ancestral property. The court ordered him to dig up the ashes and remove the headstones and the bust, since the ownership was going to his ex-wife now. But why did the court ask him to dig up the ashes? The judge said he reached his decision based on the fact the headstones above the urns aren't permanently fixed, and he gave Mr. Moss 2 weeks to dig up the site and remove the jars of ashes, as well as the bust of his father. Mr. Moss was heartbroken, saying, "It's not just a block of land or a piece of dirt. It was my parents' home." But since the ashes and headstones fall under the category of movable assets, he was asked to remove them. And the fact that the urns could be moved was actually a significant reason why the court ruled in his wife's favor. Now that's messed up. Number 5. Vomiting on her wedding dress. Bad marriages aren't just a thing of the modern world. When you force two incompatible people together, a disaster is bound to happen. We have a page from history to prove that. Princess of Wales, Augusta, didn't just have one of the worst marriages in history, but also one of the most disastrous wedding ceremonies ever. The German princess was sent to Britain at 16 years old as a bride in the arranged royal wedding to the Prince of Wales. The royal family was in such a rush to get the wedding started that they put her in a wedding dress and began the ceremony as soon as Augusta arrived. This was back in the 16th century, so you can imagine how long the journey might have been for her. And the tight corsets and heavy layers of clothing don't exactly sound like the most welcoming thing, especially when you're so tired. As the ceremony began, the princess grew extremely nervous and ended up puking on her gown. That's not the worst part. As her mother-in-law extended her hand to help Augusta, she threw up on her as well. The wedding was just the tip of the iceberg. Augusta's married life was equally bad, with her husband repeatedly cheating on her. He died before he ever got the chance to sit on the throne, and Augusta never became a queen. History, my friends, rarely has a happy ending. Number 4. Weirdest album deal ever. Marrying your boss's sister is never a good idea, but Marvin Gaye was too in love to realize that. The famous singer only had a few hits to his name when he married Anna Gordy in 1964. Anna's brother Barry was the head of Motown Records, which also happened to be the most prominent black music corporation globally. After 12 long years of marriage, Anna filed for a divorce. By then, Marvin was already an international sensation, but other than the massive fan following, he also had a huge drug problem and 2 children from another woman. So the divorce was a no-brainer for Anna. She demanded $1 million, which doesn't sound like a big deal for an artist of Marvin's stature, but it was. Marvin had a cocaine addiction that drained him of most of his money, so he didn't have any for Anna. His lawyer came up with the idea of offering Anna the $305,000 advance made by Motown towards Marvin's next album, plus the first $295,000 it would fetch in sales. Anna took the deal. Since the profits were going to Anna, Marvin didn't intend on making the album a hit. Instead, he used the opportunity to punish Anna with the lyrics. The album became a journal of how the marriage broke. Number 3. Living with the ex. We've all seen public divorces of celebrities and billionaires and their split of assets. Who gets to keep the mansion in Malibu? Who gets the more significant share in the multi-million-dollar business? But most couples don't have those luxuries. What happens when you don't have the assets to split? What happens when both parties are in a desperate need? Something like this happened to a couple in Spain, and the judge had a creative solution, to say the least. The couple had been feuding over the ownership of their house for quite some time when the judge offered a novel solution. She asked the couple to split the 820 square foot house themselves. With no other option in sight, the couple accepted the compromise. Living with your ex might seem like the worst thing ever, but it is still better than facing financial woes. According to the split, the wife will live upstairs with 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, and her husband will have a downstairs unit with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. The divorced couple also feels that it will be better for the children, except for the terrifying awkwardness that might come with living together. The solution doesn't sound so bad, does it? Number 2. Do the dishes. A marriage is a 50-50 job. You can't expect your partner to do everything for you. But we guess this couple didn't get the memo. They had been married for 5 years, and the woman spent a large part of her day cleaning the house. We all know that keeping a house spick and span is a back-breaking task. The only expectation she had from her partner was that he washed the dishes. No big deal, right? After she had finished her cleaning spree, she came to the kitchen to see that the sink was still full of dishes, and the husband hadn't even touched it. That's when she knew it was time to end the marriage. But wait, was not doing the dishes a viable cause for divorce? Turns out the couple had been facing issues for a long time. The pile of dishes wasn't the only problem. They had a whole heaping pile of feuds. But the dishes sure were the last straw. Next time if things are turning topsy-turvy in your marriage, just be sure the dishes are done. And number 1, YouTube video. Sometimes couples just need that last nudge to realize that they are not the right ones for each other. For this woman, the sign came in the form of a YouTube video. One night, the couple were sitting on the couch watching TV, and she asked her husband to play a YouTube video while his movie was on commercial. He flat out refused and didn't even bother giving her a reason. That was the moment she realized that she couldn't stay in the marriage. Separation based on this incident alone might seem excessive, but it made her realize that she couldn't stay with someone who didn't respect her enough to do something so easy. Sometimes it's the little things that sink the ship. In this case, the remote did hold the key for a lot more than what it is meant to. Thanks for watching. Which of these marriages seem like the worst to you? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.